IELTS speaking topics and sample answers. In this tutorial, we're going to look at 3 topics that have been seen recently. So let's have a look. Something interesting your friend has done, a decision you made with someone's help, a family business that you know. So in each of these examples, I'm going to give you a sample answer. I'm going to explain the strategy I was using, and then hopefully you can use the same strategies in your IELTS exam. Let's jump straight into it. So I did prepare these earlier, just a few bullet points as though we were in the exam. This is just to help you have an idea about what you'll be including, and also so you can follow along. Also, I recommend you turn on the transcript or the captions, and this way you'd be able to understand even better. So let's go. I would like to describe something interesting my friend has done. Her name is Melanie, and she's an air hostess. She started at Germanwings, then I think it was Eurowings, then Emirates. And the reason I'm telling you this is because now she's working for a private airline, like a corporate jet or something like that, for the rich and famous, or the high flyers, so to speak. And just a few years ago, she was traveling with the U2 singer called Bono. And there was just him on the plane, and then a few of his business associates, I think. She told me, which I thought was quite interesting, that she's not allowed to do selfies, ask for autographs. She's not allowed to sort of like interact or ask questions about the job. She's supposed to just treat him like, or treat the person just like any normal human being, basically ignoring the fact that he might be famous or she might be famous. And yeah, she told me that they got talking and that he was a very pleasant person and he was very polite. He was well mannered, and he was really treating her and the rest of the staff with a lot of respect. And so much so that he even offered her some free tickets. Now it's important to say that she's not allowed to ask, but if offered, I think it's a slightly different dynamic. And so yeah, and she got the tickets. We went to the concert together because she got about 4 tickets in the end. Yeah, and it was, I think it's quite interesting that she gets to meet all these famous people, these high flyers. It's like a completely new world. So that's something interesting my friend has done. Now, I just want to analyze this a little bit. So one, I started off with, I'd like to tell you about something interesting that my friend has done. So I start off with the title. It's like my introduction, as though I was writing an essay. It's my introduction, and I do this for 2 reasons. 1, it will keep me on track, and 2, just like the writing, it's good to introduce your topic. It's like logical as well. But recently I've been tutoring a lot of students, and what I find is that sometimes they may have just glanced at the question and then jumped in and started their answer and not really read it properly, and this will make them go off on a tangent, and this is so sad because they'll start talking about something that's broadly related. Now, in my case, it was slightly off, but it's the job. It's something that she's doing. So, and I justified it, and I was constantly making it interesting and expressing my interest in it. So I think I'm pretty justified with talking about the job because it is an interesting job. Now, the second thing is I set the scene. I didn't sort of like go off and talk about air hosting and, air hostesses and air hosts. I said, well, she used to work here, she used to work there, and now she's doing this, which is much more interesting. So now I kind of like make this connection and I set the scene. I mean, I'm going into a little bit more detail than necessary here, but I wanted just to make it sort of like relevant and coherent. I don't just jump in and say, yeah, she went to a U2 concert. I tell the interesting story about who she met and how she met them. Okay, so it's like it's coherent, all of it together. Now the next point, I'm using good vocabulary, high flyers, the rich and famous, and I was also quite positive about Bono and what happened there. And then I finished with, and that's my brief description about something interesting my friend has done. So I'm kind of closing it and I'm making it easier for the examiner. Also, there's some constructions there. It's like, she said he was surrounded by. Yeah, of course I'm going to forced to use like talking in the third person because it's something interesting your friend has done. But still, it's important to get that across and to communicate the whole point. So that was my small description, or my brief description about something interesting my friend has done. Let's move on to the next one. A decision you made with someone's help. So we've got my notes straight down there, and here's a very important point. Now, I remember this situation. I remember I was talking to my dad, and his sort of like decisions was, don't do it because you'll end up spending money. And then I kind of justified the opposite. I was like, okay, I should be spending money. I need to spend money to get to go where I want to be and to experience new things. I don't want to live like my dad and be in the same place all my life. I'd like to move around. So I kind of took the reverse of what my dad gave me. And what I'm saying is that it's just too complex. There's just no point telling the whole complex story behind it. So even though it's in my notes, I'm not going to mention it, and I'm just going to keep it simple, because at the end of the day, this is a communication exam. It's not an exam about how I make decisions or about my relationship with my dad. So I'm just going to skip that part, and I'm just going to go for the straight and more direct, easier concepts and beliefs to describe. So let's jump into it. So a decision. I would like to tell you about a decision I made with someone's help. That someone was my dad, and I really admire him because he's made a lot of important decisions that have ultimately had a positive effect on my life also. So the decision I had to make was where I want to live, and I have a lot of friends in Asia, and they were espousing all the benefits of living in Asia, you know, the low costs, the beautiful weather, beautiful people, always very kind and very friendly. However, I was quite happy in Spain, where I was living. Although I'm originally from England, at the time I was living in Spain. And so I rang my dad up, I bounced some ideas off him, and he really made me think about where I want to be, and he gave me some really thought-provoking questions that helped me readjust my thinking and see it from different perspectives. Basically, with the help of my dad, I could take a step back and I could sort of like see it on a long-term basis. And in the end, I did decide to go to Asia, and I don't think I would have been able to make that decision without the help of my father. And that's my brief description about an important decision I made with somebody's help, my dad. Thank you. So here, once again, I've done the introduction. 2, I didn't exactly follow my notes word for word. Okay, I kind of went off on a different argument, but I knew I could express it clearly, so it wasn't a problem. And secondly, I used some good vocabulary there for decision making, thought-provoking, perspective, long-term perspective, taking a step back. All of this kind of vocabulary is very useful in describing the whole situation. And that's another part. I described the actual conflict. I used a contrast. I was living in Spain at the time, but I knew that Asia had lots of benefits. So we're using these contrasts. It shows the examiner that I've got good linguistic dexterity and I can bounce between these. And that was another phrase as well. I can bounce ideas off my father. Yeah? And like I said, I didn't go into the whole emotional relationship. I didn't explain what I explained before. I just kept it simple. And it's, like I said, I'm just communicating information to the examiner. The examiner doesn't want to know about the relationship in my family. He or she just wants to know if I can communicate what I want to in my mind. And what I want to communicate are straightforward, easy to grasp thoughts, not complex psychological relationships. So let's move on to the next one. I would like to describe a family business that I know about. Well, this family business happens to be my own. It belongs to our family, and it's my dad who runs it. He's the owner, he's the manager, and basically he does everything in that shop. So as you'll have guessed, it's a supermarket. It's in my small village, and my dad specializes in like exotic foods from Europe, from Asia, and he buys like niche products that the normal bigger supermarkets cannot justify buying in larger quantities. So yeah, I think my dad's been in this business now for about almost 40 years. I think he's a bit tired, to be honest, and as I said before, he's on the cash out, he's on the cash registers, he's carrying potatoes on his back, he's talking to the customers, he's doing wine tasting events. He's very, very active. In fact, I used to work there when I was a kid too. I think I started at 11 there, and it was good fun, and I got a lot of memories and a lot of experience and skills from my time working in the shop. So that's my small description of a family business that I know inside out. Thank you. So there we go again. Like, I'm telling a small story. I'm telling an anecdote. Quite a few anecdotes, about my dad carrying potatoes, doing wine tasting. All the vocabulary is there as well, like cash register, warehouse, just words that you're only going to use if you're talking about this topic. Also, I used a very useful construction. I used to work there too. I used to sweep the warehouse and also carry products from one end of the shop to the other, etc., etc. Yep, so I'm giving personal anecdotes, and I told the examiner it's our family shop, but my dad owns it. I tell them where it is. It's in my village, my hometown. I tell them how long my dad's been there, what he does, and just really trying to answer all the question words, the who, the what, the how, the when, all of these points. And I think you should do this as well if you want to give expansive answers. And another technique, and I've been using this technique with a lot of success with my online students in the online classes, and this is giving a description, sort of like introducing your talk, then saying because, then possibly giving an example, and then if you're stuck for something to say, you start using the how, the what, the how, the where, the why, all of that. And if you do this enough times, and if you're getting feedback, then it's a very effective way to prepare. And the last point, which I'll just mention, and if you are practicing online with a tutor and they pick up on certain grammar points, maybe it's your tenses, then don't let it run away. And what I've been doing with my students, and it's been very effective, is that we do lots of exercises around that exact grammar point. And I won't let it go until it's perfect. And we do this with lots of repetition, lots of exercises, and we keep coming back to it. And this is why I've been getting a lot of success with the students. So if you're in a situation that you want to improve your speaking, maybe you've taken the test quite a few times and you're fed up, then have a look at the intensive IELTS fluency course. And it's basically, as I was saying, a fast improvement in speech recognition, so you can understand the examiner, you can respond to the right questions, and you can respond quickly and automatically. So have a look in the link below, and yes, all the best, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.